Hello, YouTube. Hello, anyone who's watching this. Hello. Today, wow, it's been a while since I've made a video and uploaded it to YouTube. I was sitting in my room today and I was like, I want to make something. And I was like, why haven't I made a video in a while? Videos are so fun to make. I used to have so much fun just making videos, random shit. And I was like, let's make a video. And I was thinking, and I was like, I've always wanted to make a video essay. And I use the term video essay very lightly on this video, just because I think video essays should be a little bit more thorough than like what I'm doing. It's like a very like concise video essay. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about a book and discuss themes. So yeah, that is what I want to do today. And the book that I'm going to be talking about, it's in the title of this video, but I wanted to talk about My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I read this book last semester, and there's a lot of media in my life that is very special to me, and this is one of them. This is just such a good book, and it deals with a lot of topics in a very interesting way. I mean, you'll hear what I have to say about the book and the themes like within the book, but to preface, I love this book, and if you haven't read the book, you really should. It's so good. The thing is that I don't even like read that much. Like, I wouldn't really call myself like a reader, like a big reader, but I fucking love this book. So yeah, today I'll just be talking about the book. To forewarn you guys, I did write everything I'm going to say down, so it's going to sound like I'm reading from something. That's because I am, because I could never articulate all the thoughts that I have about this book and about the themes within this book just straight up. Like, I would need to write them down in order to express them generally and express them eloquently. But yeah, that's what I have today. Very excited. I've been wanting to make a video essay for a while now. So here it is. Ottessa Moshfegh's 2018 novel My Year of Rest and Relaxation took the internet by storm when it released, and has landed itself into the midst of cultural identification. Many young girls have identified with the book, turning it into a sort of cultural object in a way that they use to describe themselves and their emotions. In this current age of the internet we find ourselves in, it's easy to pick up on the loose line between media and the self. It's a weird combination of objectification and narcissism that feels ultimately inevitable with the way that media is constantly becoming more intrusive and honestly more important to us as a society. In this new stage of the internet, media, and the world, we've made ourselves objects to be digested and images to be seen. Many factors contribute to this, namely the omnipresence and voyeuristic nature of social media. Not to be it's all social media's fault type of person, but we've begun to describe ourselves by the music we listen to, the movies we watch, and namely the books we read, which has crumbled the idea of the self. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. Nevertheless, Moshfegh's story and characters became a symbol of reality and truth for a lot of girls in a very diluted way, touching on the feelings and emotions of being a young woman in society in the current day and age. A quick synopsis. Set in 2000 to 2001 in New York, follows an unnamed protagonist as she ups her prescription dosages and locks herself in her apartment in the pursuit of sleeping for a full year. Now, to be quite honest, before we begin discussing this book, I loved this book very much. I've already read it, but I brought it with me to my new apartment because I felt as though it needed to be near me. I resonated with the book, and I very much identified with it. We all participate in the objectification of ourselves through media, and there's little to no escaping these days. But in this video, I don't intend on battling over if this is a good book or not, or if this book accurately describes the feminist mindset / current woman's outlook on society these days, Because this is one story and one woman, and representation can't represent every single story, person, and mindset of everyone in a community. Ultimately, the story is satire, but it displays a sentiment I think a lot of women share right now. In her 2019 article entitled "The Smartest Women I Know Are Dissociating," Emmeline Clein coined the term dissociative feminism, and she says this, quote, "Maybe it's a curdling of the hyper-optimistic #girlboss, run-the-world girls feminism of the aughts, characterized by an uneasy combination of plaintive begging and swaggering confidence that gender equality was just past the horizon line. But Sex and the City and Cosmo tutorials on how to come didn't make much of a crack in the bell jar. So instead, we now seem to be interiorizing our existential aches and angst, smirking knowingly at them, and numbing ourselves to maintain our nonchalance. Let's call it dissociation feminism," end quote. Optimism has failed, so now we turn to sarcasm and nihilism in an attempt to heal our wounds. Let's turn to a moment in the internet that I personally find intriguing. A while ago, on specifically TikTok, information and apps bleed together these days, but you get what I mean, there was a popularization of the phrase the male gaze. I could go on and on about this because most of the people using this term were using it wrong at even a grammatical level, but I digress. Feminism for many, me included, has become a lot more intricate and theoretical, digging deeper into inherent belief systems and gender theory. To be melodramatic, the moment I read Laura Mulvey's essay, Visual Pleasure in Narrative Cinema, the essay that coined the term the male gaze, I, too, adopted a more nihilistic approach to my feminism. When you begin to understand gender dynamics as a woman, escapism seems like a satisfying option. It's important to note that Mulvey's essay is film theory, but it is very much applicable to media in general and even reality in a way. Women are becoming more increasingly aware of the extent to which gender functions, and there's no way to #girlboss your way through it. It's the way they look at you. It's the way that no matter if you're the CEO or an intern, you're still an object. I can talk and talk about Mulvey and her theory for hours, so I'll stop while I'm ahead. My year of rest and relaxation encapsulates the nihilism that women ascribe to at this time. It is probably a good time to reiterate that when I say women, I don't mean all women. This is why the book is so popular and has gained such a dedicated and particular fan base, because these women so desperately wish they could find a way to escape and dissociate from the patriarchal world, a sort of fairy tale fantasy that is not based in the real world, but offers the image of dissociating as revolutionary. We as women don't need to put all of our effort into #girlbossing our way to the top, because dissociating is revolutionary itself. Rejection to the world is revolutionary itself. But not only does the book offer a fantasy for women of escapism, it paints it in a realm of reality for the reader. Moshfegh makes it clear that our protagonist is a beautiful white upper-class woman, making this fantasy of dissociation only attainable for a few. It is clear that the protagonist's dissociation fantasy is exactly that, fantasy. She's able to get by on her good looks, all the wealth she inherited from her parents, and systematically her whiteness. Through the satire, a connection between gender and capitalism can be made, and an understanding of gender within capitalism can be had. The book details a sort of breaking point in the protagonist's life, overcome with all that is expected of her, and a culmination of the trauma she has endured. This sentiment is one that a lot of women can agree with. The reality that she is a wealthy, good-looking white woman is where the satire, I believe, begins to distance the reader from the protagonist, and the fantasy of dissociation becomes based in reality. Most women can't do that because of the roles, jobs, and reliance others have on them. This is where a critique of capitalism can be seen, and an understanding that an escape is not really possible at all. Capitalism is based on power dynamics, and the reality that there is someone on the top and someone on the bottom, the top benefiting from and inherently exploiting the bottom, gender dynamics performing in a similar way. Capitalism is built upon the ideals of chance and hope. If one has enough hope and works hard enough, they too can rise to the top. Or one can leave it up to chance, think lottery, and rise to the top as well. But these are mere stories and fantasies that keep the wheels turning and instill an ideal of wealth to the masses, not based in reality. Once one realizes the reality, the only option is to escape. Late-stage capitalism is not at its point of revolution, if it at all ever gets there, but at its point of escapism. Although we take it as such, media has never really been a form of escapism as it relates to a social order. German theorists Theodor, Adorno, and Max Horkheimer, in their essay entitled The Culture Industry, Enlightenment as Mass Deception, talk about culture industries as a, quote, central part of a new configuration of capitalist modernity, which used culture, advertising, mass communications, and new forms of social control to induce consent to and reproduce the new forms of capitalistic society." End quote. Moshfegh plays with escapism in a way that writes itself as fantasy for the woman in a capitalistic society, breaking down the utopian fantasy landscape that capitalism and a patriarchal world present to us. Our main character is cynical and oftentimes very hateable, but she is real, and her status aside, she represents the way a lot of us feel about our lives at this point. Whether these systems are at their real breaking points or not, it is clear through media like Moshfegh's book that we are entering a period of escapism that plays with the idea of revolution at bay. To return to the feminism discussed earlier, Moshfegh portrays through her book that our positive approach to feminism has come to an end. But it's important to note that our nihilistic, cynical approach doesn't quite work either. My Year of Rest and Relaxation should not be taken as a manifesto or words to live by, and Moshfegh makes it clear that this is not reality or even the correct way to conduct our revolution. This is a story about the fantasy of the future, one where we can wake up and somehow everything is better, and we are better because of it. We hate the world and ourselves because we've realized that positivity isn't going to fix what we think it will, but cynicism won't either. For the meantime, our cynicism may let us laugh at our oppression and remain nonchalant in the midst of our subjugation, wishing we could sleep through the world and wake up to an idyllic social landscape. Equality doesn't come by just the visibility of representation or issues like voting rights anymore. It's far more complex and dares to enter the psyche and systematic, deeply inherent patterns. I would like to read an excerpt from Laura Mulvey's essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, on this matter. Quote, "There is an obvious interest in this analysis for feminists, a beauty in its exact rendering of the frustration experienced under the phallocentric order. It gets us nearer to the roots of our oppression. It brings an articulation of the problem closer. It faces us with the ultimate challenge, how to face the unconscious structured like a language, while still caught in the language of the patriarchy." End quote. To wrap up, I highly recommend this book to anyone and everyone, and I highly recommend reading Mulvey's essay. It's foundational in, I believe, all feminist theory, but especially film theory. And I'd like to end with a quote from My Year of Rest and Relaxation from Chapter 1, page 17. Quote, "I can't point to any one event that resulted in my decision to go into hibernation. Initially, I just wanted some downers to drown out my thoughts and judgments, since the constant barrage made it hard to not hate everyone and everything. I thought life would be more tolerable if my brain were slower to condemn the world around me." End quote.